Hello, I'm Nathaniel here today for another preaching session. And today we're going to do a preaching session on faith. And if you watched my last video, you would have seen that, you would have heard that I mentioned faith a few times, that faith and love are tied together, and that the Lord operates by faith with love, and that to use faith, and I wanted to share that to use faith, you must have love. I believe I mentioned that in the last video. If not, I mentioned it in this one. But today's going to be on faith. And now, what is faith? Faith is what God operates by. Faith is what God uses on a day-to-day basis every day. We should be using faith on a day-to-day basis, but if you look back at yesterday and today, I'm gonna tell you that you probably haven't been operating by faith the entire day. But we should be using faith and operating in faith and by faith on a day-to-day basis. So, faith is, it's one of the most powerful things that has existed. There's God, faith, and love. That's what the Lord has revealed to me so far. There might be more, but for what I know now is that the most powerful things there are God, faith, and love. And love, if you look back in the Bible in Genesis, you will see in the beginning where God created the earth, and He created the earth by faith. And that's where faith is super powerful is from. He created the world and all of us by faith. It's what he uses. Faith and love. Faith is a very powerful thing, like how He created the earth. And what's great is that He has allowed us to use faith. And there are different rules by faith in the Bible. I can go over one that I know at least. Is that with faith you have to be fully persuaded. You have to be fully persuaded by that what you're believing for will happen. If you are not fully convinced, faith, it will not happen. You won't be able to finish the. I'm sorry, I get lost sometimes in my own words, but So, faith is what fully persuaded means. Fully persuaded means that you believe that there is no other option. If you believe in faith that this mountain will move, that's a term used a few times in the Bible. Well, at least once I know. But if you say that to a mountain that this mountain will move, you believe by faith, you believe that there is no other option, even though it doesn't seem logical to your brain or to your mind. It doesn't seem logical that the mountain could move. You must get yourself to the point where you believe that that mountain will move no matter what, that there is no other logical option for it to do. So, believing by faith, you must be fully persuaded. If not what you were believing for, you won't have been fully believing for, and therefore will not happen. And faith is really what the Lord wants everyone to use. It's very important to Him that you use faith. He created all of us in the image of himself, in the image of him, that we're created in the likeness and image of him, and have our own free will like he does, and like all of his angels do. Everything he's created has a free will. Free will meaning that it will do what it wants when it wants. And that means and all angels have free will, like Satan. He started off as an angel, and then one thing I want to get into you about faith is that faith is the Lord gave out faith, like he made faith, and that whatever you operate in faith by goes by him. So it's like if you think of like a shipping place. A customer sends in a shipment. A person goes through the shipment, sees what they need to do, where the address is, and whatnot, and then they go pick it up. Well, that's like with the Lord. If you believe something by faith, it's like you sending the ask to the Lord, and the Lord always grants it, almost always grants it, and then that shall be done. And the reason I said almost is because if you look at Satan, and you read in the Bible, I believe it says it. It might not. But that Satan believed that he wanted to be like God. He wanted to be like God. So he believed by faith, and he started confessing that he shall be as the Creator. He shall have the same power as the Master, as the Creator, as God. And because the Lord created faith, his name was Lucifer. The Satan's name was Lucifer at the time. His original name was Lucifer, but he changed his name to Satan because he turned evil. But he confessed and said that he would be like God. He believed that he would be like God. Whether he was fully persuaded or not, if he was fully persuaded, he believed that he could be like God. Well, the thing is, God created faith. So just like what you do, you send something into a shipping company, they review it, they see the address, they see what they need, and they send it back to you, and they come and get the item. That's what Satan was doing, except so Satan was sending what would you call it? I don't know what you call it. Like a message to God, he was basically sending a spiritual paper asking God to be for him to be like God and in God's own image, and God said no. And if God says no, that won't be able to happen. Now let me explain to you. Knowing that God will say no should not discourage you, because if your means are good, if you're not trying to do like Satan did, do evil with faith, then that shall happen. And that shall happen if you were fully persuaded. Whereas, so if you believe for a new car and you confess, another thing with faith is that you have to confess it. You have to say it out loud. But you say, I'm going to get a new car. I'm going to get a new car. I'm going to get a new car. And by faith you believe, and you believe that that's the only thing that'll happen. You're sending that to the Lord, and because what you want, what you're trying to get with faith is good. It is not evil. He will grant that, and as long as you stay believing in faith long enough, you will get your new car. But something else, like someone believes that this person believes that so and so will die on this day, and by faith they believe it. They believe that that's the only option. It'll go to the Lord. The Lord will say, "No, I'm not going to let faith kill anybody. I'm not going to let faith do evil to anybody." And that's one of the things that the Ten Commandments say: don't murder. That's one of the things that it says. And so with faith, that's like one of the rules with faith, almost, if you can look at it in the right way. The Ten Commandments, they tell you what you tell you what you should not do. And if you believe by faith that'll happen, that something like that, that's something that you're not supposed to do, that is on the Ten Commandments, will happen, you believe it and you're fully persuaded, the Lord will say, "No, I'm not letting faith to do this, because I already told this person that he shall not do this." Like what I was saying with murder, that he shall not use faith to kill somebody, because using faith, if it worked, using faith to kill somebody would be murder. You're not doing it physically, and in actual cases like where they involve court trial, no one can prove it, but if anything could happen by faith and the Lord didn't regulate faith, and someone believed that so and so would die, and it happened, it would be just as bad as that person using their own hands to kill that person. But luckily for us, for everyone, except maybe the guy who wants the person next to him dead, which should not be the case. If you are a Christian, you should be moving through love, peace, and joy, and with God. You should not be wanting to kill somebody. You should not be envying someone enough to try to want to kill him. But the Lord regulates faith so that if your actions are noble and just, He will grant permission for you to use faith for that. If your actions are not noble and just, like murder, stealing, if your actions are not noble and just like that, He will not allow faith to do that. He will not allow faith to grant that, because He loves everybody. Lord, because of His love, He loves Satan. He loves even Satan, which is why Satan hasn't been cast down to hell yet. I mean, cast down to the fiery pit in Revelation for 10,000 years. Because God still loves Satan, even though what Satan's done. But there's a great story in the Bible. Jesus was heading to a city, and right before you remember from where he stormed all the not tax collectors, but he stormed all of the people selling birds, or not birds, but selling animals that could be a sacrifice to God. right before he threw them all out of the temple. He was traveling. Him and the disciples were traveling, and he saw and he was getting very hungry, and he saw in the distance a fig bush with had a bunch of green leaves, and they went over, and there were no figs because it was not fig season yet, and because there were no figs, the Lord said, You tree shall never again bear fruit for anyone else, for any other person, and any other thing. You tree shall not do it. And what he was doing, a step you have to do by faith is you have to confess it, just like Jesus was doing. You have to confess what's going to happen, what you want to happen, and that is going to happen. And then they went away. They continued walking. He said it. He didn't say it mentally. An important thing to know is that he didn't say it mentally. He said it out of his mouth. He confessed it out of his mouth, and loud enough so that his disciples could somewhat hear. So they went to the city. Jesus threw all the sellers of the animals out of the temple, and then on their way back, Peter, I believe, said, "Look, Lord, what the tree that you cursed has withered from the roots and died." And Jesus said that to trust in the Lord. He said that that not only he, even though he was the Son of God, he had faith just like any other person, because he left everything. He left all of his. He became human. He wasn't like God on earth. He became human, and you can tell one reason because no miracle happened until after he was baptized by John, and the waters and the spiritual dove came down from heaven. I'm not sure if it was spiritual or not. You'll have to look into the story more. I think it was spiritual, from what I've seen. But so you can tell there that he became human, so that he could do nothing more than any other person could. He just had what made him different was that he was the Son of God. That's the reason that everyone thinks of. But the second reason is that he found that he established a close connection with the Lord, unlike anyone at that time, but it can be done. Anyone can establish a close connection with the Lord, like Jesus. But at that point, but like all of the preachers, they've done that. But you don't have to be a preacher to establish a close connection with the Lord to where you can hear Him. You just gotta. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit off topic. But Jesus said to trust in the Lord, and He said that you have faith to do this, and if you have faith enough, you can tell a mountain to move, and that mountain will move. The exact words He used, or somewhat closer to the exact words He used, was He said that you can tell the mountain to be cast into the sea, and it shall be cast into the sea. By faith. Showing that we have great faith, great enough to move, just as great as the Lord. We have just as great as the Lord, faith as the Lord. Except, I'm sorry, we don't have as great faith. We have the same faith. You don't have the same amount of faith unless you keep seeking, because keep seeking and building your faith, because one thing with faith is that there is no neutral. It's like a car. What I like to say it as is it's like a car on a slope. You're trying to head up this slope, and there is no actual neutral. And there's no actual neutral, and there's no park. On this slope, either you're in drive and you're heading up the slope, or you put it in neutral, or you put it in reverse, and you start heading down the slope, and you start heading back down. There is no stopping point with him. There is no, I'm going to believe in faith. I'm going to believe in faith for till this extent, and then a year later, you cannot expect your faith to be, if you haven't used faith at all, you can't expect your faith to be as great as it was then, because you stopped using faith for that year. And with faith, anything can happen, and a lot of times some people will be like, well, you're believing this, well, you're foolish to believe that this will ever happen. Like, it's foolish to believe that you'll get a new car, but no, it is not foolish. It's confessing that you will have a new car, and it's no different than the new birth. Than confessing and believing by faith that you are reborn, like spiritually born, spiritually reborn. It's no different. And that's probably it on faith today. We're at about, like, by the end of this it'll probably be like 23 minutes, but 22, 30 and a half, or 23 minutes. But what I urge you to do is I urge you to read the Bible, listen to more preaching, seek the Lord more. Keep seeking the Lord. Keep growing your faith, and surely enough, you'll grow your faith. You'll be able to believe for more things. You'll be able to believe that more things will happen, and they will happen because you have stronger faith. But and you'll be able to be closer to God, and you'll be able to start hearing from God. If you believe whatever you believe, you'll be able to hear from God. I mean, you'll be able to will happen. So if you believe by faith that you'll hear from God, you will surely enough hear from God. That's what I do, and there is no age restriction. Okay, there's no age restriction. I started hearing from God when I was about like 9 or 10. About like 8, 9, or 10. I started hearing from God. You can hear from God before if you're strong enough. If you're strong enough in the Lord. But there is no age restriction on how much faith you have. There's no age restriction. Okay, that's a nice thing. There's no age restriction with God. You can be 50, or you can have 50, or you could be 3 and have the same amount of faith at both points in your life. But I urge you, keep following after the Lord. Keep growing your faith. Keep moving forward in your faith, and you'll be able to start hearing from the Lord if you want to, of course, and to start seeing breakthrough, like a financially, if you need it. You'll be able to start seeing breakthrough financially, like if you believe that this bill will be paid. It will be paid by the end of the month. And also, there is one thing I'd like to add on, though. Never, ever put a time restriction on something that's not supposed to be time restriction. with faith, if you put a time restriction on it, your faith will go strong until that time restriction. But right after that time restriction, you will, your faith will die down and be gone from that specific thing. Not altogether, but that you will have no hope of getting that specific thing. So if you say, my bills are going to be paid by the 15th, by midnight on the 15th, and you believe, and because you put a time restriction on it, your bill, you will not receive money for your bills to be paid on the 15th at midnight, and right after at midnight on the 15th, you will be discouraged, and you will be discouraged, and like but so don't set a time restriction on it. But I urge you, keep following after the Lord. I want to talk to you more, but I gotta stop it. But I urge you, keep following the Lord, keep moving forward in your relationship with Him, and keep growing your faith. This is Nathaniel signing off on for these preaching sessions, and I'll see you at my next preaching session. Bye bye.